Good night, Belize. Are you guys tired of seeing my face? I feel like I've been on like almost every night this week. So hopefully you're not tired of me. And if you are, don't worry. I've got great panelists, so you don't have to hear me too much tonight. For those of you who are just going to be tuning in and might have missed some of our activities before, this is National Disability Awareness Week in Belize. Our theme is Not All Disabilities Are Visible. Today, too, is actually International Day of Persons with Disabilities, which is today, December 3rd. So it's a perfect night for what we have scheduled. We have a panel discussion, and on our panel is Dr. Byron Ross he is a speech and language pathologist, instructional associate professor, and he has been to Belize, but I'm gonna bring him on and he can tell you about his experience here, but he's our expert for tonight. And then we have two youths of Belize who are on the autism spectrum, and they will be coming on as well. We have Savannah Nunes from San Pedro and Eric Mendez, who is originally from Orange Walk, but is now going to St. John's College Junior College. And we're gonna talk about their life experiences and how it was. And you guys are free to ask questions, and we will try and answer them to the best of our abilities. But this is supposed to be a nice discussion and casual, so I hope many of you are tuning in. You can feel free to share the feed wherever, so we get as many people as possible to help build some awareness, which can lead to acceptance. So thank you all. So my first person I'm going to bring up is Dr. Ross. Let's add him here. And I'm going to just switch over since you are more important than I am. Good night.
Good night, and I send you greetings from Houston, Texas in the United States.
So, Dr. Ross, first of all, you have been to Belize.
Yes.
How did you come about?
So, the University of Houston, we formed a partnership with a third party, Therapy Abroad, some of you may be familiar with, and we brought 20 graduates and undergraduate and graduate students, speech language pathology students, and there were 4 professors. 3 of us are speech pathologists. 1 is an audiologist. And we came over to do assessments and interventions. We visited Stella Maris, we visited NARCY, we visited Teach Me Preschool, and we also visited Help Age. And so we came there to do basically assessments and intervention for children that were identified having speech, language, or hearing problems.
Wonderful. So you saw a bunch of Belize, and you got some experience with some of our great areas there.
Yes.
But you went above and beyond, because I got your name from a parent who said he was just so great that I was able to message him and ask for further advice and further help. So you have been a real autism champion for some parents here in the country. They talk about you like you're a hero.
Oh, well, that's nice to hear. Good to hear that. Well, yes, when we went to Teach Me Preschool, there were some children who were identified as having autism spectrum disorder. And of course, that has a special place in my heart. And so I wanted to keep in touch to see if there was anything I can do to provide any resources for one of the teachers there. We provided some low technology, assistive technology, where we made some communication notebooks. And so through WhatsApp, I've been in touch with a couple of parents and just willing to do whatever is needed or whatever resource I can be, and would like to continue to do that to whoever I could be a resource to.
That's absolutely amazing. I think that's great, because I know you guys have such a busy schedule, and for you to go above and beyond is amazing. And we are hoping that come 2021, we can partner with you and your university for some more possible trainings and things in the future with Autism Belize?
I believe we have plans for several things that we would like to do with parents and other entities in Belize. And so our university, the University of Houston, our department chair and our clinic director, we have had several meetings about being involved in Belize, and our university is all in. Even the university lawyers who are doing work behind the scenes with your Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health to make sure that we're able to provide services there in Belize.
I'm just going to put this up right away. Definitely your hero. Thanks for all you do, Doc. So I'm just going to put that
thank you.
So, okay, our next panelist for tonight is Savannah Nunez. I discovered her on Facebook because she had stood up on a stage and gave this wonderful presentation about getting the diagnosis and growing up with Asperger's on the small, very little island of autism, of San Pedro. So I had to meet her. I spoke to her mom first, and she's like, no, you got to talk to Savannah. And I was so impressed with her. I'm so excited to have you on tonight, Savannah. How are you? Here we go. Oh, I have you on mute. Sorry. Now you're on.
Hi.
I thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Savannah, you're a San Pedrano, right? Born and raised.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you went to school there, you live there, that's where your family is.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to bring out Eric now before I start asking you both about a little bit about your past. So, Eric.
Hello, good night.
Good night, Eric. Now, Eric, you're from Orange Walk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So you went to school there until you started coming to high school?
Yeah, as soon as I graduated from primary school, yes.
Yes. And now you are at SJCJC?
Sixth form college, just graduating actually.
Oh, you're graduating. Wonderful. And you're graduating with what degree?
I believe it's arts and science.
All righty then. You believe? You should know. All right. So guys, this is our panel for tonight, and I'm going to just open up and sort of try and introduce them a little bit so you all know a little bit more about them, to make it easier to ask some questions. First of all, Savannah, how old were you when you were first diagnosed? And what was the initial diagnosis?
I was 14 when I was diagnosed with Asperger's.
You were 14 when you were diagnosed with Asperger's, but earlier on you had another diagnosis, right?
Yes. When I was 9, I was diagnosed with ADHD.
There you go. You broke up there. Can you repeat that? Okay.
When I was 9, I was diagnosed with ADHD.
With ADHD as well. So what made them have to go back and do another assessment at 14?
I don't really remember much except I was unstable mentally. So I think my mom went and got a second opinion.
Second opinion. You were having panic attacks, right?
Yes, a lot of anxiety and mood swings.
And mood swings. Okay. And
I was sorry.
No.
And I wasn't socializing with socializing with other friends.
Okay. So a little bit antisocial, and you were having panic attacks, so your mom believed it was more than just ADHD. And she took you to Miami to get diagnosed. Yes. At that time, it was hard to get any sort of diagnosis here in Belize, right?
Right.
So all your
the doctor that diagnosed me, her name is Dr. Maribel Aguilera, and I've been seeing her till today for 16 years.
Wow. Okay, you got a great relationship with her then. That's excellent.
She's my best friend.
Perfect. That's wonderful. And Eric, for you were diagnosed really young, right?
I was 4 or 5, yes.
You were 4 or 5. And your initial diagnosis?
It was Asperger's.
You were diagnosed with Asperger's.
I think it's because I was my parents thought I was mute. I wasn't responding to them because they were responding to me in Spanish. That's how it was supposed to be my first language, but actually my first language is English, and I watch a lot of English cartoons even up to now. They are part of me, and I love them so much. And when the doctor started talking to me in English, that was my language. I spoke proper English, but I was just 4.
Wow, that was impressive. But what were you struggling with then?
I believe it has personally it has to do with my concentration level. I think I watch like when supposed to be like concentrating, I'm looking, but sometimes I doze off. I get distracted easily. It's a common event that happens to me on a daily basis. I doze off and I miss some certain things, and it comes back to haunt me. Yes.
It does, huh? Savannah, you struggled a lot as a young child with school and making friends, right? What were some of your struggles?
Yes, I was bullied a lot.
You were bullied a lot. Would you want to give us an example of how you were bullied?
I was given a fake note on Valentine's Day. I was told I was the ugliest girl in school. I was told that I was a disease and nobody wanted to be near me. Everything possible.
So you had a hard time making friends and with struggling with some of your schoolwork, right? Oh, you keep freezing, darling. Okay. Well,
Yes, it affected my schoolwork a lot.
I will just let everybody know, I think it was storming out at San Pedro, so that's probably why we keep losing her. I'll move on to Eric and see if we can get her unfrozen there and see if she can message her. Eric, so you struggle a little bit with, you deal with your ADHD, but you manage it on your own, right?
Yes, I was prescribed with Ritalin when I was just 5. Simply because like my concentration level, I doze off a little bit, and when I was prescribed with that, my parents noticed that there, like my normal behavior, as energetic as a person, was just gone. Like for 5 hours, like where was I? Or to Eric, hello, wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was scary. So after that, I wasn't prescribed with anything that has to do with my condition, and I just sort of adapted to what I am.
And I like to think about with autism as you guys have like a Mac brain and everybody else is working on a PC. And so there's differences, right? You can learn, but sometimes you learn differently. Were in school, were accommodations made, where the teachers realized, hold on, that you were struggling, and were they able to help you?
Yes, there were times when I either have to approach the teacher like, Miss, I'm having trouble, I did not understand, or I get evening classes just to see how I can be back on track. But it's all based on how I have to be on top of my game. But then it was those times when I was sort of dependent, like I was just letting it slide freely because I didn't listen, so I just um, let my own self slide down. That was a part of my struggle. So I didn't ask help when I needed it.
You didn't. So how did you get back? Because you're about to graduate with an associate's degree. So that's amazing. So you're struggling, you kind of slide. How do you get back so that you are where you are?
Well, I had to take the lessons like in third farm I repeated my third year in high school, and I took the failure to heart. I couldn't I just didn't feel like I didn't want to continue because I let down my parents. I let down everybody that looked up to me, and I didn't feel like continue again because I took it to heart and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I was taught that I was given a second chance just to make everything right, right my wrongs, and I started interacting with more people. I started making friends. I still friends up to now, and they managed to keep me afloat up to now, just so I could still keep up on my studies. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
Your friends
And my parents.
And your parents. You got an awesome
And especially.
mom. Make sure you're on the game. Savannah, you also had some issues with school and everything, right? You struggled. Were you able to get help? Were they able to realize that you learned differently? Are you there? Can you hear us, Savannah? Oh, we keep losing you. Can you hear us? Let's see. I'm gonna mute and unmute. You have to unmute your mic. I can't unmute it. Your mic has to be on mute. Can you click on it? All right, now you're on mute. Now we can hear you. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your school experience.
So I went to private school.
We keep losing.
I probably in standard 4 or 5, and she educated my teachers about my disability, but I still felt like they dismissed me. At the end of when I was in standard 6, when I was about to graduate, they told me I might not graduate because I was struggling so bad with my grades. So they, so I was told I had to buckle up or I wouldn't graduate.
And this is
So
from
I tried.
standard 6, which is 8th grade, right?
Yes. So from then on, I did my best, as best as I could, and I did graduate.
You did
But
graduate.
I did. But for my 4 years of high school, I was homeschooled.
You
I did
ended up
private.
No, you did homeschool, but also because you begged your mom, right? You didn't want to go back to school.
No, the bullying was so bad. I was afraid it would just continue. Yeah.
So because of the bullying and the struggles that you had, you would cry to your mom and ask her to take you out of school. So you were homeschooled for high school. But
Yes.
now, Savannah, you have a great story though, because now your life's turned around. You have friends. You've held down jobs. Tell us a little bit about your jobs. What you've had.
Yes. As soon as I finished private tutoring, I started teaching at a preschool
You were teaching in a preschool, right?
for almost 10 years, and I fell in love with it. When I started, I'm part of the Rotaract of a Rotaract club, the Rotaract Club of Members Team, and I love it.
And so Rotaract has become, they're your friends, they're your family, they're the ones that support you now. And you explained to them,
Yes.
did you have to explain to them about your diagnosis?
And I know some of them are watching this.
Okay.
It's supportive.
So we keep losing you. We're gonna see if we can get you a little bit better there, and I'll switch over. But for everyone who missed that, Rotaract changed her life, helped her get friends, and she really did well teaching at preschool. She bonded with the kids, and that was like her thing. She loved it. Eric,
Yes,
what's
ma'am.
your thing? You play an instrument, don't you?
Yes, ma'am. That would be the drum set.
That's
I was
a
part of
drum
a
set.
march. I was
Is
a
that
part
where
of.
you met your friends, where you really started to bond with friends?
Yeah, I was like really close to certain guys I was with friends before I joined because they asked me to join, and it was sort of like the rhythm that I went along with it. I really like was attracted to the sound of the beat, so it was like really like an inspiration to me to play this sound. I played music that just came into my head. I felt it in my heart. I just played whatever rhythm was going with it, right?
Wonderful. And you're going to graduate. What's your plan? What do you want to do?
Well, I was thinking about continuing on with history, see what where that could lead me to. I'm about to pursue a bachelor's in history and University of Belize. So afterwards, I'm thinking about um, like see where I could probably look for things that will actually motivate me or gives me a chance to talk to like certain people that wishes to do things that they feel like they really want to do.
And if you could give advice to someone maybe starting high school who's on the spectrum or has a difficult special need, something where they're struggling, if you could give them advice right now, what would you tell them?
Well, personally, I would say, well, to everybody here watching, uh, it is like I think you consider like a new ground, like a new level for in your life that you're supposed to like transition to, or just I wouldn't say just adapt to it, but like not suck it up. But it's a phase it's a phase where everybody has to like like overcome, and if even if you're told that you're expected to be at this level with them, and you can't meet up with it simply because you have a potential of exceeding that expectation. So I just want everyone to know that it doesn't matter if you should be the same level as everyone else, or whatever it is that you're capable of. You can exceed more in what it is that you're told.
You can do more. And Savannah, what would you tell everyone watching now? What would you advise to someone young that's struggling, who was maybe bullied or struggling in school? What would you tell them now?
That they're not alone.
They're not alone.
Never give up and always be themselves.
And if you could change something in Belize, you have lived the experience, you see the problems, you know what's needed. What would you, if you could make a wish for Belize right now, what would you wish for?
A special place where kids can go and just be with other kids that are just like them, like more resources for special needs kids, more teachers, more
More
educated
teachers
teachers.
too. Okay, and actually that's where we're going to bring in Dr. Ross right now. So that was very good for me. A great transition there. Dr. Ross, both of these kids were diagnosed relatively young. What is the importance of getting a diagnosis really young?
First of all, I'd just like to say to Savannah and Eric how inspiring you guys are. You had, so many opportunities to give up, but you guys kept fighting and kept pushing and refused to give up. So I just want to say, take my hats off to you guys. That I applaud you. Absolutely, I applaud you, and you're heroes in my eyes. But early intervention really is very important, because the earlier we can make the diagnosis and get an appropriate diagnosis, the sooner we can start intervention. We know that there's something called neuroplasticity in terms of the time period in which the brain is most malleable to learn speech and language and social skills and that kind of thing. So making sure that we get it as close to that time period as possible. And so the more therapy and intervention and to address those appropriate goals, I think the better off you are at being able to learn more functional skills that will prepare you for those transitions in life, from high school to post high school, from college to employment, all those kinds of things. Hey, Christy, you're muted now. Christy, you're muted now. No, can't hear you. No.
No.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Perfectly.
Sorry.
Now
Okay.
yeah.
My thing must have come off somehow. Sorry about that. I was going to say, I've had the experience of talking to some pediatricians in Belize and parents, and a bunch of them are saying parents are taking their children to pediatricians because there's a language delay. It might not mean autism, but there is a language delay. And parents are telling us that they keep saying, oh, well, wait until the child is 4 or wait until the child is 5. But they shouldn't wait, should they? There are things that parents can do at home or therapy for an early intervention.
Well, that's unfortunate because we kind of have the same problem with pediatricians in the States here too. One of the things we have to understand about pediatricians is that they don't really a generalist, and so they don't necessarily have the knowledge when it comes to speech and language as well. And so what they get oftentimes is they have these developmental milestones that they look at and they think, well, wait till the child is actually 4, which is not appropriate at all. As a matter of fact, that's why so much of the research, the current research in autism spectrum disorders, is trying to see if we can get it diagnosed reliably even earlier. There are newborn studies that are being done where they're looking at this idea of sustained eye contact and whether or not that can be something that can be looked at as a red flag marker towards diagnosing autism even earlier, because earlier the better. Unfortunately, here in the States, the people of color are diagnosed a lot later than children who are not of color. And a lot of misdiagnosis is going on in the United States as well. And again, unfortunately, the one professional many individuals know to go to is their pediatrician. And so our American Speech Language Hearing Association is currently working with the American Pediatric Association to try to get some more education in when these pediatricians are in medical school, so that they at least know to refer to a speech language pathologist, someone who is a communication specialist. When you ask about whether or not there's things parents can do at home, there are some, if you will, red flags, or there are some checkpoints, developmental checkpoints at 3 months, at 5 months, at 6 months, at 9 months. And you and I have talked about the training on next year, and that was one of the things I had planned on doing, was talking about some of those things to look for in terms of what typical diagnosis would be, and how to kind of look at that and raise a red flag for maybe I need to go see a specialist.
Thank you for that. I wanted that out there, because even when I spoke to some pediatricians, they admit that are really honest, but she's like, that's not my area. I'm not a pediatrician. That's not what I do. And unfortunately, so many of them, they don't know where to send them because we don't have any developmental education.
Right.
And we have, very few people that can actually do a proper diagnosis in the country. And so that's one of our problems there. Another challenge, you saw the difference between Eric and Savannah. Eric didn't respond well to medication for ADHD, and he learned himself how to try and manage it. Savannah had other diagnoses that go along with Asperger's, and so she had to take medication, but she can't even get the medication she has to take every day in the country. So we do have challenges, and so Savannah, your mom used to have to take you to Miami every year for further assessments and your medication and for them to monitor, right?
Yes. Every couple of years.
You'd have to go. And the medication that you still take today is not available in the country. So that's one of our challenges here as well.
Yes.
Anyone out there have any questions? We have 2 experts who are living on the spectrum and doing a wonderful job, so you can ask them questions. And we've got a professional here who teaches and educates and has been to Belize, so take advantage and let us know. I love the positive comments for Savannah and Eric, but if you guys have any questions, that would be cool too. Other than training for our parents, our teachers, and our doctors, Are there other things that you can recommend for us to focus on as a country, as a group, so Autism Belize, that we can do to try and help?
Well, Savannah and Eric kind of brought up the point that there, and you did too, the not a lot of resources in terms of autism spectrum disorders and professionals. One of the things we've been discussing at our university is trying to identify um, people who may be good candidates in Belize who already may be some type of healthcare professional who could now that we have this access to teletherapy, right, and this teleeducation, maybe finding partnerships in which speech language pathologists, audiologists, physical therapists, occupational therapists can be trained and returned to Belize so that some of those resources can start to become more plentiful there. And I think that's one of the keys right now. One of the things I would like to do is applaud your support group here because you've taken control of the situation and not wait for things to happen to you, but you're making things happen. And I think that's one of the things that also I think needs to occur more there, or people just taking the situation in their own hands and reaching out and starting to make things happen. And so I applaud you guys on that as well. But forming partnerships, now that we have access to technology like this, being able to reach out and possibly form alliances and relationships. Right now, there is no agency, in terms of accrediting speech, language, and hearing pathologists or audiologists, and again, forming relationships that are already established, like the American Speech Language Hearing Association or some neighboring a country where those things may already be established, rather than trying to start things from everything doesn't have to be started from scratch. There's some things that are already established that can just be another organization, if you will, formed there in Belize that can kind of piggyback off of that, or just be another part of an organization that's already established.
Capacity building is definitely something we do need to focus on across the board. And I've been in contact with Eric's university, the SJCPAC, to talk to them because I want to go in and just like a career day. Because I feel like a lot of these professions nobody thinks about because they've never been exposed to. We don't have an occupational therapist in the country, so we don't have. It's not on someone's radar for it. Savannah has recognized that she's really good with working one-on-one with kids, and kids are struggling. She was part of a starfish summer camp and went back as a counselor because she figured out that was her niche. But a lot of people don't get that experience to say, oh, I want to be a speech therapist, occupational therapist, or anything else. And so I feel like we also need to expose our country that there are a whole lot of other careers out there other than, lawyers and businessmen. So that's something that I think we do need to talk about.
Absolutely. You can have these virtual career fairs where you get these professionals to come on and talk about, you get occupational therapists to come on and talk about occupational therapy, and audiologists to come on and talk about audiology. I commend, like I said, I commend you guys for taking control of the situation and, starting to really put together some of these things like this. Organizations like yourself could, start to form a scholarship, for a student in Belize who may want to go to another country to get a degree in occupational therapy, that kind of thing, and starting to provide resources for individuals to actually do that, or partnering with the Ministry of Education or partnering with third party or outside organizations to start getting people trained in these areas, and so that they return to Belize, or now that it's teletherapy, we don't have to return to Belize, but now you have homegrown resources there that can start educating other people.
All right. Before we tune off, because we've had people here for a little while, is there anything else you would like to share? Advice, recommendations, or a great personal story that you would like to?
I didn't catch that last part. I'm sorry.
I'm like, is there anything else before we start wrapping up that you would like to share with everyone some advice, a good story, something for the youth out there. And we want to
Well, I mean,
a little bit about anything.
well, I mean,
Anything.
mhm. Well, when it comes to like living with these kind of conditions, and like myself, you're not prescribed with any medication that's supposed to suppress it, and you're supposed to focus on one task only. I think that like strips away the joy of learning. I think that is the key aspect of what everyone should strive for. So I think learning a process for every children that diagnosed with Asperger, ADHD, or any other learning disability. I think it's a learning curve. So things that we need to adjust, and everybody like myself needs to like uh, find a way to see how what are things that we are capable of in learning, and things that we want to give back to our community and our society.
Thank you. And Savannah,
Well,
anything you'd like to share that we didn't cover, or advice or recommendation?
I just want to share that I want to write a book about myself and my story, and I want to actually start a blog as well about the same my life and my everyday life with living with Asperger's. It's something that I've always wanted to do.
Well, I will tell you, I started a blog this year with Autism Belize when we launched, because I launched Autism Belize in April and COVID. So a lot of the activities I had planned, nothing could happen. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I started blogging. I said years, people said, oh, Chris, you should. And I started. And my advice to you is just start writing. And if you want to start your blog right away, we'll put an extra tab on our Facebook, on our Autism Belize website, just for you and for your blog, and we can post it there, and so people can see it and share it, and we can do that until you get set up. So you start writing, and we will support you and post so we can hear your stories and your adventures with Rotaract and the things that have happened that have shaped you to who you are. You have a very interesting story, and until you can get up your own website, you're more than welcome to have a piece on Autism.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Okay, now we have some questions coming up from some parents here. So let's see, what tips can I use or activities can I do to support my child's communication at home?
Good question. Always remember to always talk and communicate with your child, right? Always try to set up opportunities for them to communicate, and then let them practice on it. So for example, when it's dinner time and you're passing out the silverware, pass out the silverware to everyone except your child. All right. And then when the child needs the silverware, right, and you look at them and say, what? Oh, you need a spoon. Okay, this is a spoon. Provide them opportunities to do that. Give them, if they wanted something to drink, pour just a little bit of drink in there, pour it in there, and then set the container down and let them drink. And once they finish drinking, they look up at you with that expected look. Take those opportunities, set up opportunities for them to have to communicate with you, and then foster that communication, right? One thing, children with autism spectrum disorders are typically visual learners. They don't learn best through the auditory channel. As people who speak, our natural reaction is to always try to explain things spoken. But if you can find a way to show them with a picture or with a gesture, or if you can write it down, or whatever way you can, find ways to communicate with them using some type of visualization. But the important thing is to provide them opportunities to communicate, functional ways to communicate, right? Things that they really need to put on. They have to put on their shoes, hide one of their shoes, and then give them an opportunity to communicate. Where's the shoe? Where's your shoe? Let's go find your shoe. Oh, it's under the bed. I see. It is under the bed. There you go. It's under the bed. Good job. Provide opportunities for them to communicate, and then communicate with them. Use what I call joint action routines, right? Make up a routine that you do with your child every day. research suggests that the more predictable you can make a situation, the more likely you are to get the desired outcome, right? So if you can do something that's predictable, do the same thing every day, every time you get dressed, do the same thing, read the same book every day, all right? Make it more familiar, all right? And those are some practical tips that I can give.
Give it, don't give the child the knife and fork. I'd love that. That's a tip I've never heard before, and it's excellent. Thank you. That was great. Savannah, you've got people who are looking forward to your book. You've got to start writing. There's a Rosa shout out, so I see some of your Rotarians. Eric, lots of people are very proud of you. Do we have any other? Oh, here we go. We have another question. How can we improve conversational communication in children who are more comfortable labeling but is hesitant to answer open-ended questions?
How old are we talking?
This parent's child is probably about 4 or 5, so probably still on the younger side.
4 or 5. Okay. So just like with when children start to label, right? Children are going to learn based on what they hear and what they see. And so modeling the appropriate communication is going to be the first step, right? What I usually tell my parents here at the University of Houston is model the communication you want them to eventually use. All right. So if you want them to start speaking more conversational wise, then you want to give them an opportunity to do that by modeling the appropriate communication. Again, if you use visualizations, I like to use what I call fill in the blanks. And so I will give them an opportunity to say something like, I see a, and then and then leave it blank, right? So show them a picture of a bumblebee. Oh, I see a picture of a, and the child says bumblebee. And you start using what we call these command phrases, right? You start using these starter phrases. Oh, I see a. Use that to start with, right? Oh, I see a bumblebee. So you go from just saying bumblebee to, oh, I see a bumblebee. Oh, I smell chicken. Oh, I like this. Or start using, oh, I'm sorry, I mislabeled. It's called a carrier phrase. So start using carrier phrases with your child. Oh, I see a. Oh, this is a. And we move from carrier phrases to longer phrases, right? So you start moving into conversation, but between labeling and conversation is probably speaking in shorter sentences like that. So use carrier phrases. Again, use visualizations with that. While you're reading, do those kinds of things while you're reading. All right. Oh, there's a. Oh, what do you see right there? I see a, and require your child to answer with I see a. Or what do you like? What do you want today? I want a. All right. And require those what we call these carrier phrases. If you can write it down and cut it out and make these strips. All right. I see a. I hear a. All right. And again, offering that visualization, that might be a good place to start.
I think that's some really good examples there for you, Steph. Oh, another one. Let's see what's here. In the absence of a speech therapist, what can teachers do to assist children to help them communicate? Do you believe speech therapy should be in our special needs school? What are your thoughts on PICS boards? Wow, lots of questions. Are they effective for everyday use for nonverbal students? Do you believe ASL would be better?
Okay, so let me start with the first question. In the absence of speech therapists, what can teachers do to assist children with communication? So as I mentioned before, language, children start to learn language based on developmental milestones, right? And so making sure that you have a language-rich environment. I'm not so much interested in speech as I am in language, right? So in other words, whether they're speaking, whether they are using gestures, whether they're using communication boards, making sure that making sure the environment is language rich. And what I mean by that is making sure that you're using a lot of descriptives, not just labeling nouns, but also that you're using action words, that you're using adjectives, that you talk about putting things up on the shelf, under the shelf, that you talk about what color it is, what it smells like, how big it is, how small it is. All right. And making sure that, again, we model that language. Even though they may not be able to verbally express using that same language, as long as we're modeling it, it's getting downloaded in there, right? It's getting downloaded. At some point, if they do become more expressive or if they do become more verbal, what's already downloaded will start to come out. But the first thing is we have to make sure that we're putting the language in, making sure that your classrooms have pictures of things in there and that your classrooms have colors and descriptors and those kinds of things, and that we talk about it. Again, I think one of the things that's often missing is the opportunity to talk about language and to use language. All right. And rather than just using one word or one sentence, making sure that we're using language. Do you believe speech therapy should be in our special needs school? I absolutely believe that there's a very special set of skills that speech language pathology comes with. There are actually 9 areas of speech pathology that I think most people only associate the speech part of it, but it's speech, it's language, it's hearing, it's cognition, it's voice, it's feeding and swallowing, it's social skills, it's augmentative communication. So speech language pathologist has a very specific set of skills, but it's also a broad set of skills that I think that the special needs school can absolutely benefit. What are your thoughts on PEC boards? PEC boards are really good for children who have any level of language. PEC boards are beneficial for kids who are just starting to learn language. PEC boards are beneficial for kids who have established language. PEC boards should be used for kids who have limited expressive language skills, right? So it's an opportunity for children to communicate wants and needs using PEC boards. But at some point, PEC's board should also be able to grow with a child, right? So at some point, it has to go from just using individual words to also being able to express in sentences, and also not going beyond requesting, but also allowing a child the opportunity to make comments as well. Are they effective for everyday use for nonverbal children? Again, I believe the way that PEC boards are used has a lot to do with whether or not they're effective. Now, they're not 100% effective for all children, right? Just like any therapy technique is not going to be beneficial for all children, right? Some children will benefit from PECs, some children won't benefit from PECs, but the way PECs is used, I believe, has a lot to do with it. PECs does need to be used within the context of learning and communication situations. Again, children need to be able to use it over and over and over again. If it's just used at school, it's probably not going to be as effective. It has to be used across all contexts. It has to be used at home. It has to be used on the bus. It has to be used on the car ride home. It has to be used in the grocery store. It has to be used in the market. It has to be used in all those places, right? In order for it to be most effective. Do you believe ASL would be better? There's a difference between teaching signs and teaching sign language. All right. I don't necessarily believe American Sign Language is the best option for children who are nonverbal, particularly with autism spectrum disorder. I believe using signs, which is just giving an individual sign for a word, but we know American Sign Language involves a completely different syntax, a completely different morphology. It's a completely different language. But I do believe using signs would be beneficial because signs kind of serve the same purpose as a PEC. All right, but it's just a different type of visualization. As I mentioned before, visual is usually the strength for children with autism. So a sign is just a different visualization, but I do believe signs are beneficial for children with autism. And let me just say this. We don't use one mode of communication, right? Those of us that are verbal. Sometimes we speak, sometimes we gesture, all right? Sometimes we write. We have multimodal communication. Children who are nonverbal with autism spectrum disorder should also be able to use multimodal communication. So if they have some speech and they use a combination of some speech, some pets and some signs, all that is fine, right? All that is fine. We can't constrict children who are nonverbal to one single mode of communication when we ourselves are multimodal. I hope that answered at least some of the questions.
I'm just going to give my son as an example there. My son is 13 and he's nonverbal. A lot of you know him because that's what I blog about. But we started out with PECs and he got really well good with it, but it was very hard for our everyday life because he was always in the pool and in the sea and the beach. So our PECs boards would get destroyed and then he started to get frustrated as the words, as it grew and grew. We tried sign, and to this day, he'll still sign for more. We had different things. But again, didn't pick it up any better than he had the pen. So we moved on to the iPad, and we use touch chat now. And he started with the basic needs. I want to go outside. I need to sleep. I want to go to Hooters because he loves the wings there. Whatever it is, he knew the basics and the needs. And now we can say, he'll say like, guess who my favorite person is. And of course, he'll choose everybody else except his mama, because that's how he is. But now we can have some questions and jokes. Like he does this and he laughs. The other day, for one of the first times, he actually used it to say, I feel frustrated. For us, feelings that was a big deal. So we've gone through the things, and I think it really depends on the child and on the circumstance as well. But the idea is that you just keep trying whatever is there, I think is my point towards it. And you don't give up because you just want them to be able to communicate.
Absolutely.
We do speech therapy through Project Speech online. And our speech therapy is all about expanding the use of his iPad. Not even about pushing for verbal words. He has a couple, but we are pushing for things like expressing feelings and everything. So yes, speech therapy. We have a comment here. Love the modeling language example. Autism students are very responsive with this raspberry. Yeah.
That's my aunt.
There, okay.
My mom's sister.
There we go. So I see everybody's watching. Do we have any other questions while we have these guys on the screen, or can we let them go because they've got live people? So let's take advantage.
Please do share my email address.
With the whole crowd.
Oh yeah. Please share my email address. And anyone who has any questions about anything, please do.
Okay, I will add that for anyone who wants it. We can put that there as a contact for you all. We can
and they may not be able to think of a question right now, but something might come up.
Something will be okay. He gave me permission, guys. We have this recorded, so you can't take it back.
Yes.
So if anybody has any questions for later too, but I want to thank you all very, very much for joining us tonight. I really loved hearing your stories. I think it's very brave of you that you came out to share and your experiences and everything. And Dr. Russ, I'm so looking forward to working with you in 2021. Something to be excited about after 2020. So I really want to thank you all for your time. Very informative, and thank you. I'm sure everyone who is listening enjoyed. Thank you all for attending, and for you all. For everyone else, as I say goodbye to them, our Disability Week does continue. Tomorrow on Friday, let me just see here, where there's a Health Partners planning session in the morning. So if you need some more information on that, you can reach out to me. And then on Saturday, we have special needs yoga for children. We did for the adults yesterday. But on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on Autism Belize Facebook page, we will have special needs yoga for kids. Anyone can join. It's free. It's on Facebook. It's live. You can join us. Our instructor is certified in special needs yoga with a specialty for autism. She does a great job. Don't worry if your kids are running around or whatever. Try and see if they can connect, because this is a great way to try and reach them and maybe teach some mindfulness, some breathing that might help in some certain situations. So please join us on Saturday at 10 a.m. right here at Autism Belize. Thank you all for participating tonight. Take care. Good night.